call.
Member Rob Taylor,
Here.
member Julia Liu,
Here.
member John Lawless,
Here.
member Maria Bemis.
Here.
And Chair Flores.
And member Kelly Carrillo is not present. She had an emergency and will not be in attendance for the record. I'm here. Okay, oral communications. This is the opportunity to address the audit committee on any scheduled matter. Unless additional time is authorized by the committee, all commentary shall be limited to 3 minutes per individual and no more than 15 minutes total. We do not have anyone in here to say anything. Donnie, you want to say something?
Well, it's a moment, thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You'll reserve your comments.
And we have no one on virtually.
No, you're not.
Thank you very much. We'll now go into scheduled matters. The approval of the minutes, of July 13th. Everyone had a time to look at them. Do we have a
Move to
motion?
approve.
Thank you for Fernando.
Okay, we have a motion
Second.
and a second. No further discussion. All those in favor, signify by just saying aye. Aye. Well, now we're going to go into the barn theater room. We don't have anyone present from the barn theater here. So we'll go ahead and continue the discussion.
Right, and I think there were some pieces that they were going to be putting together for the committee's attention in terms of modifications to the agreement they wish to.
And I'll remind them, because they probably just didn't, it's probably just not on Alan's radar, is my guess. So I'll remind him that he was going to do that, and we'll let him know when the next meeting is, so.
And most specifically was dealing with the use, ancillary uses of the facility beyond the restrictions that are, I think it's no more than 4 times a year by 2 groups or something. There's some limiting language in terms of that and wanting to have some additional flexibility with that. Fernando has been trying to find the original, that comes to the question of what was the terms of the agreement back when the barn theater was formed. He's not been able to come across that just yet. It's certainly not available electronically, and there is a potential. There had been a flood 20, 30 years ago that had destroyed some documents downstairs. So we're not exactly certain if that may not be with that, but there's still some pillaging of boxes downstairs to try to find records from the 50s or 40s, whenever the barn theater was first established. What I did want to present, and I've been trying to find the work that was done 10 years ago. But I thought this would be helpful. So make sure I hand it to you the right way. This is oriented. This is oriented south to north, and you'll notice. So this is Plano on the left, and you'll see this kind of rounded parcel. This is the parcel which the barn theater is on in this strip right here. This like the Big Dipper.
Oh,
The Dipper is the barn theater.
Oh,
Wow.
right here, okay.
It's
right here.
no. All right, so let me
Do I have this wrong?
do this. So you want your page to look like this.
Right.
Yeah, I put top, bottom, side.
So you want your page to look this is like this is cool. I did some teaching. Page looks like this. All right. So golf course, right? Which is this here. This is what we call the vegetable garden. And then this is
Oh, the
its
whole
own.
thing.
So this used to come along like this. If you'll
Okay.
And so this is all part of one, this was the Murray family donation of this all to the city. The barn theater is located right here
Okay.
amongst this.
Yeah, yeah.
Some people know this little triangle back here as the Cubs, the Boy Scout.
All the Boy
Yeah,
Scouts.
cheapies used to be and all that stuff. Yeah, so this is owned by, it's not by, a lot of people think it's owned by the city. It's not, it's owned by the Elks. And
Oh, is that a little triangle or
a little triangle, yeah, that has no access. So they access So the Elks comes over city property, and that part, I don't remember there being an easement to cross, but there's been just some things done over time. But anyway, this is why I wanted to demonstrate. So all of this, this here, so this is the driving range, you play this course. This is all an improved, and this is a separate APN, which was not part of the Murray donation. This is the best,
Which part?
this part of,
Oh, okay.
this is what we
The
call.
vegetable garden.
The
vegetable garden,
vegetable garden.
which was always been planned for this to be developed is called the expansion of Murray Park. We've talked about this being additional park space as it comes. In fact, it comes out onto Plano right here. But this is the best way to kind of give an example of what was under reversion. So many people don't realize that that whole parcel goes all the way back to. That's not park. Might be park. Whatever this road is here, off of Plano. But anyway, that's the best. So this, I call this the Big Dipper. This area is so it's all part of one.
Okay.
And all under reversion. Should it not be used?
Mhm.
What we do need to probably do, and maybe the city attorney's staff can assist, is having, if I can't put my hands again on that. On the deed.
Deed restrictions.
The deed, yeah, where it's
Deeds and restrictions.
deeds and restrictions, yeah.
Yeah, the CCNRs of record, covenants, conditions and restrictions, easements.
I know it's
all that.
available. I got it from the county. County clerk. County clerk's office.
Do we have the,
Clerk record.
do we have, so we don't have the original documentation evidencing the transfer of the property to the city, or do we?
We can get,
So if we can get that, then we can trace.
we can trace the property. What we've
Mhm.
not been able to put is the trace on the agreement to develop the barn theater on the property.
Oh, okay.
Because that was the question
The
about
actual agreement.
the urban legend
Oh, yeah.
that the barn theater, that it was city property.
So we can't get the deeds and restrictions then, because that
Yeah.
would have been on the deed
That
itself.
would have been the CCNRs of record.
If there's a deed restriction, it's on the deed itself. That's what I'm saying. The reversionary interest should be actually
Oh, no.
in the deed itself.
It is.
Okay, so you have that. What you don't have is the development agreement
For
or
the barn
the,
theater.
for the barn theater, the original one that would have shown what they, yeah,
Conditions
what the
were
conditions
between the
were.
barn theater.
So that may not be recorded. That's the issue. If it's not recorded, I mean, then all we can do, it won't be in the,
No,
the
never been
record.
a title search. I mean, not title search.
if it was recorded, then it would be
Yeah.
there. But I don't know if it was recorded. But we can certainly look to see if
Yeah,
it was.
I don't remember it because when I went. So full disclosure, I went with Mr. Shelton over there when he was on the council to show me how to do this, and because I've never done it before, and he's
Yeah.
like, this is how you can go learn how to do it. So you go over there, you find the APN, and then we also went through, if you know the APNs of various, you can go and see all the
Oh, yeah, you can-
information on all the mortgages.
You can
and
trace
everything.
all liens, all encumbrances, all easements, but that's all recorded documentation. It's because it travels with the property.
And I don't remember.
This agreement probably-
That agreement being.
They can be, you can record, you can record abstracts of leases, you can record abstract, or which is just a summary. Or a notification that there is a lease. Notification that there is some kind of development agreement. Sometimes that stuff is recorded, but it's not required to be, so it may
It's
not
not
be.
required to be, but I know that when I worked for the title company, people did come in and just order a title report. That way, the title company is the one that actually did all the searches,
Right.
and they eliminated what was.
They tell you what's out there and
Yeah,
then you can
and
go,
then
and then they actually usually provide you at least
They
with some
do
of the
provide you
documentation.
with the
back.
document.
Yeah.
I mean, well, the title report showing what's on the property after they've searched all the records.
Right.
Why are we doing all this? So we know who owns the building?
No, it's so we can try to figure out whether or not, well, partly, if there is an issue where they actually own it, because our records don't reflect that they own the building.
And they
What we
certainly
have.
think they do.
Right.
Uh-huh.
They
And
thought, well, do they though? Alan didn't seem to think they did, but he didn't know.
Well, I think it all,
I don't know.
all depends on the moment and what you want.
Depends on who you're asking.
Yeah, no, I talked to some of these guys since our last meeting, just to see. In
Yeah,
fact, Denise came to Rotary last week and did a program, so I got to chat with her too. And yeah, they think.
I think they own it. I mean, and it's possible it just got lost in translation at some point, or a group that took over didn't know, and then the city, who knows, I don't know, or the city didn't know, or whoever was doing it with the city didn't know. But I don't have any record of it. I just
But they've
heard
been
that.
building, they built on and they paid for that,
Yeah,
right? They've been doing all the
which
improvements.
they were allowed to do. We had allowed them to, but the question is, yeah, do they own them, or are they just tenants and it's been put on, placed on the.
Well, that's my $1 million question. They have some improvements that need to be made there, big time.
Yeah.
You were doing auditions last weekend and there were pipes breaking and water all over the place, so they had to do the auditions out on the parking lot instead. So, yeah, that's the big question. I mean, these guys need some help or they're not gonna be able to.
Yeah.
Well, I know
Put
that
on
I
any
have talked to
performances.
some board of directors in the past as far as any historical documentation from years and back. And one shared with me that there were an abundance of documentation. And since the turnover and changes on the board, they said, oh, well, we don't need this. And I don't know that. That's just on information that's been given to me, that a lot of it got discarded and it could have been in boxes and it went someplace else.
But the reality of it is, if there's an
Exactly.
agreement between us and the Barn Theater, they aren't the only ones that should have
Correct.
copies. We should have copies.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. So,
So we have
Yeah.
more research we need.
Yeah,
But I thought this would be a good way to understand.
yeah, so
Well,
there
that's
is-
What I-
helpful.
what I
The
know is,
visuals.
I
yeah,
like pictures.
yeah,
True.
it gives you the layout on the, and I can give you the APM.
Yeah, that'll help. And we can see we can find everything there is. It's out there. It's
Okay.
recorded.
I don't think there was anything further to report on.
So what are these guys supposed to be doing for us? And do they come back then? I know they wanted to be able to have a few more events than,
They were gonna provide language to us, proposed language for an amendment that would open the door for them to do more with regard to fundraising. So, and since I prefer that rather than us try to figure that out for them, they tell us, and then we can kind of work on what we think needs to happen from the city side. So
because
that's where
there
we're at
was
with that.
also an emphasis made that they didn't want to lose sight, not they. The comment made of the visual and the performing arts and the purpose of the Barn Theater, to not defray from its purpose with other fundraising venues that are no longer,
Well, is it gonna, I mean,
yeah,
it's gonna say it, is it gonna be an event center
correct.
instead of a theater? What's the primary purpose? of it?
Yes.
That's what they're talking about, Christmas parties, weddings, like that.
well, but if you don't have money, you can't put on a performance.
Right.
So that's I
It's
guess,
a balance, right? I think
Yeah.
that's the issue. They need flexibility to fundraise. But we also want to make sure that the overall purpose of the facility doesn't change by virtue of, that becomes what they actually are doing rather than the primary purpose rather than
Yeah.
the theater.
I can't imagine anybody fundraising unless they had to.
Yeah.
Such a lot, no fun.
Well, it just becomes its own enterprise though, because event centers are, it can become its own thing where you're just doing it to.
So maybe, with some of the prior conversations with the barn have been, and likely the 2 cannabis dispensaries are gonna be open for the first in 2022 calendar. That's, right now, both are on track for opening in November-ish timeframe. And as part of those agreements was that they contributed a minimum $30,000 each, so they, towards a community benefit fund to promote the arts and other kind of downtown activities, artwork.
Can be expanded to include performing arts.
Well, and that was explicitly, that could be whatever the cost, I don't know what the cost of production is to 20,000 or whatever it is. You submit a proposal And, there will be a committee that makes recommendations to the city council for funding out of that. And again, that's a minimum of 60, that it's 1% of gross.
Well, I would just hope that, if, like right now, I know they need some stuff done. So, and they have some performances that are planned, but they can't put those on until they get the leaky pipes fixed, right? So they need to do a fundraiser. And the city says, sorry, you can't do a fundraiser. So what happens?
They have room. They actually still, they have room in their existing agreement to do fundraising. It's just limited and they want that limitation removed. I don't think it's stopping them like right this second from having a fundraiser or coming to the city to ask to do a fundraiser. But I think the issue is they want more, they don't want to have to, they want the ability, a path where they don't have to necessarily get special permission. Like there's already standards set up for what they can and cannot do. That's where I think they were going. And that way they can, as long as they stay within those parameters, they don't necessarily have to come to us. So I think that's because right now they do have to make, they at least have to, come make an application for
Yeah,
certain
because it's on
things, for
certain-
retail sale or things involving sales.
Right, because they use the city's property for retail purposes.
Is that a city council decision?
Well, and I'm also gonna say
Outside of
this, I'm also gonna share this and say it here at the table, that there are venues that are out there, but you have to apply for some of the funding. And it's submitting an application and
Has Denise been in touch with you yet?
Denise hasn't been in touch with us at all.
Okay.
The last person that was here was a Miss Smith. Katie Smith. That's who was here with Alan.
I don't know.
Oh, were you, maybe you probably weren't, were you in the last meeting?
I was
You were
that,
there.
was that her?
That was,
She was online with Alan. She was in-
Oh, on the, okay.
Yeah, I
I-
don't remember.
Well,
I apologize. You might, I didn't, I honestly didn't remember. I wasn't like, hey, weren't you there? Yeah.
That's all right. I get that all the time. I thought that was Denise on the other line. I didn't know.
no,
it was-
that
No,
was,
no.
I believe, Smith. Katie
We're
Smith.
talking about Denise Marchand, is that who we're talking about? Or
No,
Denise,
no,
different
no,
Denise?
it's-
It's, Everhart.
Oh, Everhart, okay.
So who's running the show over there? Is Denise the main person or is the other lady?
So I think she is the
Smith.
president, but Smith is the treasurer. So the money. So when it,
Gotcha.
Okay, well. Let's try to, we can try to
make
get,
communication.
maybe we can try to get it buttoned
that.
up next meeting.
All right. That's where we'll go from there then. Consideration of auditor fees. Maria.
Yeah, so talking to our auditors, same auditors, about the new engagement, which is the audit of the 2021-22 financials. And they are increasing the fees, and I kind of created a simple spreadsheet here, which shows the last and
Right.
another one.
That's all right.
Yeah. So we contracted with Galena LLP back in 2011 for a 3-year audit plus additional 2-year option of 2 years. So through all those 5 years, they never increased their fees. And then after the 5 years, we're on annual basis engagement with them, with the same auditors. And they merged with Clifton Larson Allen in 2017. So there's just minimal increases during the last 5 or 6 years until this new audit, which goes from 41,500. He's quoted me 72,500, which is almost 75%
Yeah, wow.
increase. And his reasons, increased staffing costs, of course, for them. And there has been quite a few GASB standards that have been implemented, and it's being implemented, which increases the time and everything that they're doing for the complete audit. And also few more grants that they also need, are included in the audit, especially with the ARPA, with the CARE. So there's just been a lot more things to do also. So that's the code. And I did tell him if that we're probably going to be, we have to do this anyway, and there's no time to do a new RFP. But I did already tell him that we are probably going to go through an RFP next year to see about maybe better. I don't know.
So I take it do we have a master agreement and then they just do different statements of work, or
This,
how's this work?
this is the first year that they're doing a master agreement. I didn't attach it, but there is a
Oh,
master agreement.
okay,
We didn't used to. It's always just an engagement letter annually, which is kind of the signature
okay.
statement.
And we were on a year to year with them, so it's not like we're not within the,
Oh, no, we're not.
okay.
No. After the 5 years, we're out of the
Which is why
contract.
they can increase it that much.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and they haven't, like I said, it has been a minimal increases every year, less than 3% until this year.
Yeah,
So, yeah, I'm just asking the audit committees.
Recommendation.
You're saying it's too late to do anything about it this year, so this is.
It is, yeah.
This is the radar, put it on the radar.
We need to get start on our audit, which we are starting on. We've scheduled our audit. It's too late to go out and look for new auditors now. We need a few months ahead.
yeah,
Need to
We'll
get
have a
few
long
months
memory,
ahead.
although prepare yourself for this to be new.
yeah. There's ways we can try to prevent this, but it's hard when we're on a year to year because
Mhm.
we're kind of, that they have the issue of, yeah, it takes time. They know it takes time to do an
Yeah.
RFP. So it would take us a minimum probably of 60 days, and that's probably doing it really quickly
Yeah.
to get it done.
So, yeah, I plan to, maybe send out the RFP in January, February next year.
Mhm.
So, anyway.
They're just kind of taking advantage of the situation, but what are we gonna do? Other than tell them,
Not
okay, fine,
have
but we're
another-
going out to RFP for the next year then.
Which,
Keep
yeah,
going
it-
on. Oh, forever.
Second thought. Well, and they may be reading, this is one of those where they know what the environment is, so we're seeing this in a couple different, where you could say something's a certain number. So for example, housing elements right now,
Yeah.
you can go out and no one will bid.
Oh, yeah. Well, and then I'm not saying that you wouldn't go out and it would be this fee could be very comparable to what you'd be getting anywhere else.
Yeah, so just it could.
But we don't know
it may
that.
be the new environment,
Yeah.
just so don't have sticker shock, know that may just be what the new environment is now.
Yeah.
So.
It's just,
it's a
it's a
big
little,
increase.
it's a little crazy that it's so much. I mean, even
Yes.
30% would be a lot, right?
Yeah.
But
But I'll be shocked if it isn't somewhere in the magnitude of, definitely over 50, maybe even 60.
Yeah.
at a minimum.
I think we've been paying very
Below
little.
market.
yeah. yeah.
The
Yeah.
past
And they may want to
10
remind
years.
us of that next time. I don't know.
Okay. Thank you so much for that
Well,
information.
well,
What are you needing anything from us? What's the?
Well, I think because one of the primary jobs of this committee is to oversee the auditor. So it was to report that, guess what he's charging for his services this next year, which as well, what I think we could do is also when we report out that, because this is going to have to go on the agenda.
It's going to be on the next council.
That's what
meetings.
Jen is.
Okay.
So put it on for approval. What I think we can indicate in that staff report is that it was reviewed by the committee. And understand with direction.
I was gonna say, you want to do this? I mean, I can make a motion that the the internal audit committee recommend to the city council that it go out to RFP for subsequent, after this, for the subsequent audit after this one.
For fiscal year 22.
Yeah. That's my motion.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Further discussion, any questions? All right, signify by saying aye. Aye.
That way you can actually put in the agenda that the internal committee recommended that we.
Okay. Item number 4, the Federal Transit Administration.
Yeah, just to speak to this, and probably at the next meeting, we'll get the formal response and
It's expected we'll have the formal, but just as an update to the FTA, it's a triennial audit. It's the last one the city will have had because we're now a member of the TCRTA. So this was kind of our way out the door audit. It will be the last one that the city has, that's assuming TCRTA is ongoing success, where that become their responsibility. So they do it every 3 years. This is a look back at the past 3 years. A very good audit is what I would say. There were some items that they asked for further information on, especially as regards to procurement. And again, this was federal audit, so there's Buy America provisions and all kinds of stuff. You have to ADA. The big area that has been a big subject, we actually got a clean audit on, which was all our disadvantaged business, the DBE as it's called, things. Trish would be here to provide this report. She's our accountant that oversees transit, all the transit financials, and was very good at it. So they provided the preliminary audit report. Staff responded to it. That was submitted last week, and that's what I was wanting to kind of give a little report about that being sent. We should have the final audit, triennial audit of the transit program by the next week. That's anticipated. So the big takeaways, because I was in the exit interview with the auditors, was great job on that really hard section of DBE. You guys got a clean audit on that. There were I'm going to call it corrections, that they wanted to have more information provided as it related to procurement for the electric buses and things of that nature. So very thorough. It's probably one of the most thorough audits you have.
Appreciate the update and look forward to getting that information. Okay. Review of the Porterville Chamber of Commerce MOU.
Just a report that there's the proposed MOU by the chamber was presented and approved by the council. There was a modification to change there was a incorrect title of the acting community development director. So it was just changed to city manager designee. Was approved with that modification. The chamber also co-signed or cross-signed. So that's the executed agreement is in there, and Jason is meeting Friday.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Giving regular reports at the city council meeting, which is good.
Okay, thank you. Now, next on the review of status of pension and bond validation.
It's
So,
done.
hot off the press. This came about an hour before this meeting. Literally.
All done.
So back on August 16th,
Oh, thank you.
the courts found or
They signed it.
signed the validation suit. There was no challenges. There
Because they
is.
couldn't find their signed copy, so they were scurrying around today. That was what that was all about. Yeah,
Oh.
Chad was,
Oh.
they had to track it down. Chad's like, I don't know. So, yeah, because they kept saying, well, we sent it to you guys. And we're like, well, no, number one, we didn't get it. Then they sent it to us and it's not signed. We're like, well, that's not the signed one. And so then they had to, and then like it took an hour today and then they sent it to us.
Yeah, so fresh off the press. So this is, so a little bit of background on this. So there's now a 30-day, I call it tolling. There's a 30-day, where somebody can file their objection to this.
I think that already happened.
Well, in talking with Bud, that would go until September 16th. So you couldn't actually take it.
Oh, they can still appeal it. I think you talk about the appeal period. Okay, I'm like judgment's fine.
There's no action the city can take over the next 30 days from August 16th. So as of September 16th, there could be.
Because we published, then there was a time period within which someone was able to object at that point. And then once that passed, then the judge could sign it, which the judge did. Sometimes judges have their own issues, but the judge did not, so he signed it. So. Now
So,
we're just in
and there were no challenges. There has been some, I guess you can take this as good news. There have been some challenges by the Jarvis group against, but that wasn't the case here. So.
There haven't been that many. I think they've had one or two max, or they've had that problem.
So in any event, kind of as a look forward, we have a new member of council that's going to be sworn in at the September 6th meeting. There's they'd like to present at least kind of the state of affairs as it relates to pension obligation loans, the validation suit. And when I say this, municipal advisors at the next meeting and then perhaps go to council. And rates are kind of an interesting, it's going to be real close to that 3% that we put in. If you think of the six of that because it's 3% within the 6.8, right? Because we have to have that buffer from the PERS rate to
Right.
But there's a couple of things that are going to be coming out. There's going to be the CalPERS, our new, so we'll have, it should be in the next couple of weeks.
It's out, I believe. I have to.
He's just saying at some point that we'll have the new numbers, because the PERS already came out and said they lost 6%. Remember they made 20-something%, then they lost 6%. So netted out 14 for the last 2 years. So
It's good.
so well,
But
it's gonna add.
unless they project really high though, that's their problem, right?
Well, remember, this is the age old, so they've gone from 7.5 to 6.8. Yeah, and there were some that would even see more downward pressure, still high, but, you know, over that time period. So anyway, we're supposed to get that, and then that helps to make more. So we should have the CalPERS report. We should have, well, we now have this. We know what the rates are and have a better sense.
Whether it makes sense.
Everybody's kind of, there's this invert. He also wants to talk about but there's some folks that are taking some of their liquidity and putting it into 3 and 6 month treasury bonds right now, because they're paying pretty well.
Treasury bonds are, because Warren Buffett's doing it.
It's like 3.5% money on it, which is if you have the cash to be able.
Yeah.
So anyway, just kind of anticipate that at the next.
Okay.
And you're probably not presenting anything to the council until October.
Thank you.
Sounds good.
All right. Review Comisión Analítica Mexicana.
So, yeah, what I would say on that one, we had an inquiry from them 2 weeks ago about wanting the city to come and take care of some trees on the property, which in the agreement, it indicates that they are responsible for all landscaping, maintenance of that. So, Donna, you want to speak to that?
That's pretty much it's on them. It says mature tree and landscaping, all those things. So they just reached out and there was some dead trees and some other ones that had some limbs that they potentially thought could fall and cause damage or whatever. So they reached out to the office, I guess, and asked if we could go look at those, which we did, and assess them, and then they just wanted permission to see if they could go ahead and remove it.
At their cost.
Yeah. And I know that we were just gonna, it was going to be sent out for us to look at once we finish with the barn theater. We were gonna move in the direction of this one.
Yeah, and there was the issue of the mural that
Yes.
was painted without going through the
Permissions.
proper. As I had said.
At this point, I'm glad that we received it. I got to read it and look through it because when we meet with them at that time, once we finish the other one, we can move in this direction with this agreement. And I'm glad that the language was in here with regard to the trees, because that's the first thing I looked at as to the responsibilities and the services and everything that are in here. And maybe they want to bring in their ideas when we get ready to meet with them, and maybe they have changes. I don't know.
This one's pretty straightforward.
Exactly. Okay,
So are we wanting to make a recommendation to the council concerning the trees? Or are we gonna worry about that?
No,
or no?
it fixed itself.
It's more of a council thing.
No, in fact, I keep a little, the last time, so there was the issue with the murals. I mean, have always been, the whole front painting was the first.
Right, no, I know.
And there was that.
I know,
and
but this one
Peter-
at least, so I will say this, silver lining. It appears they are doing things properly this time around. So I think we sent a letter to them concerning the mural the last time,
yeah,
and it seems to have an effect. So it would be good to positively reinforce that by working with them on this so that then they will continue to ask for permission rather than forgiveness.
We had at the last election. I'll be curious to see if they say it again. So it served as a polling place. And they had asked, so they have, I don't, you and I corresponded about it. I went back and reread it. So the parking.
You remember better than I do.
Well, I totally forgot about it, but I went back into my file of this, just
Yeah.
trying to familiarize myself, what have been
Uh-huh.
the mural and the trees, and then I forgot about the polling place in 2020, I think. It's where they asked for us to stripe the parking lot again.
Oh.
And we did because they were gonna be using it for a governmental purpose, and so we had our crews go out.
So that was an improvement that we provided.
Yeah, we called that a wobbler. I was
A wobbler.
practiced, you
Yeah.
agreed.
Yeah.
I said,
Oh my God,
Julian,
it's
we'll call
fine.
this one a wobbler.
I do remember that. now that you said
And
it.
then you're like, yeah, it meets a governmental purpose, what they're using the facility for.
Right.
I'm pretty sure that was 2020. I have it in my file. So,
The parking lot lines as well, that was near the street that we went ahead and during that whole same process for the polling with the striping of the.
I mean, we can justify those things, those costs, because it still is our property ultimately. And if there are improvements that we stand to benefit from, should the license not be there, it's.
right.
and we did the parking lot in its entirety. There used to be it had no ADA parking and things of that nature, and at that time they were serving the senior council.
Yeah, and if
The
they're
meals
serving,
part, and
and
we
if they're
did
doing
the-
community, if they're doing nonprofit community works that are consistent with city purpose, frankly, it's justifiable, it's okay.
So, but they haven't had any other asks. So
Yeah.
that's- They were just one of the more, so we were going through a more prominent, they were just next on the list. Remember, we have like.
Yeah.
12.
That they were next on the list.
I'm not seeing a whole lot that, I mean, unless we're looking for significant changes, or we're wanting to free up the property for something, or the city needs, or it has some kind of long, plans down the road that we need to account for. I'm not seeing a whole lot of anything that needs to be changed in there. That's the big question, right? It's a facility that we have that if we have a need for it, then we should consider. And just in general, if we're just going to, this is a one-time fee of $100. I think it's what it says in there that they pay, and then they're done. So. It's a pretty good gig, right?
It is. It is.
The value of the properties.
Yeah.
That became the big it was initially gonna be sold, and then. when the Heritage Center was built and they wished to. This is one of those things where you have city property and you're gonna exit out of it and then you're like, oh no.
Or the other thing too is there a need for joint use that we need to provide for or something, or have a provision in there for it? I mean, that's the other thing. I just don't know. I mean, if there isn't, then we don't need to really account for that. When is it up?
27, March of 27.
Oh,
So 5 years.
27.
So we're in the middle of the agreement anyways.
okay.
Hey, Helen Bailey's trying to get on, but he doesn't, he needs the link. Does anybody have that? I can text it to him real quick.
It's the same link I sent out to.
It's on the agenda.
Is it on?
Yeah, it's on the.
Yeah, it's on the front of the agenda.
Oh, there it is, okay. Much easier to do this.
Yeah, that's what I end up doing too.
Yeah, sorry, I looked at my phone.
Oh, you may have wanted to start it at 4.
Oh, he might have.
Oh,
Because we changed this
changed
one
it
to
special
3
to
o'clock
3.
and we
Yeah.
said it before we closed the last meeting.
Huh?
Yes, he was here at the meeting. And he said 3 o'clock worked for him. For this one,
It's all right. I
okay, earlier was better for him.
I can empathize. I have so many meetings these days. I have a hard time keeping track of them all, and I never used to have that problem. I am now having that problem. I have to run to one. I have another one that's, I have to make sure I leave here by 5 so I can, 'cause I've got
Oh,
a 6 o'clock at home that I got a Zoom for. Plus, it's not the end of the world. We can just continue it.
So we're pretty much done. I'm back next time.
Yeah,
Alan and Julia.
yeah.
Julie can reach out to him.
I can reach out to him too. Yeah, no biggie.
Just-
I should have done it before. I just literally was so
just said
busy. I couldn't.
Julie will be reaching out to him. So for the next meeting under other matters, we'll bring in the barn theater. The barn theater. Is there anything else? Because I'd like to just try to get.
Be done.
Well, just that, you mean on the next agenda? Yeah, so as I said, the FTA audit, most likely,
Okay.
Bud will be probably talking about where things stand with this. And there's a preliminary offering statement that's been, that doesn't sound right. Oh, preliminary.
Preliminary, that's right. Yeah, I think that's what they call it. Official.
Official,
Yeah.
I said, it's not offering.
It's a preliminary official statement.
Begins with an OFF, and I'm like, that didn't sound right. Preliminary official statement, so there's a draft of that, sorry.
Mhm.
So just because it's a very fluid market. It just.
They're trying to get to the point where they can just pull the trigger if we decide that
Right.
we want to, right?
Like I said, so that would be on the next, just. presentation.
So for September, the meeting, the 28th,
Let's see.
that is the last Wednesday of the month.
Wednesday, that
Uh-huh.
works for me.
September 28th at 4 o'clock. Is there anything else? Okay, well then it's 3:44. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
We'll see how that goes.
Oh.
If we're having a